We're live.
Bigfoot saw me, but nobody believes him.
Welcome, everyone, to the Cosmic Embassy podcast number 3 at ECETI Ranch. We are here with all of our friends and family, Disclosure family, in the beautiful Mount Adams in Washington. We're here with Rob and Ben from Edge of Wonder.
Hey, guys.
What's up, everybody? Give it up. Give it up.
So stoked to be with you all. So we've just created all of this for the specific formula, and I'm so excited to be able to share this avenue with my two bros. And I met you guys, I think at Disclosure Fest in DC.
Fest, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we got to be there, and that was epic. Like hearing people talk about the secret space program at the Lincoln Memorial, it was like unbelievable.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was so fun. And ECETI's just been so great. This is your first time here?
Both of ours.
Yeah, this is my first time too.
Really?
Yeah, but I had heard about James like a long time ago, and I always wanted to be here with, James, and just I was right, because he's got the best night vision goggles, among other things.
Well, he's literally got the military grade night vision goggles.
That's actually one of the things that impressed us a lot, was how serious he's taking documenting everything going on out here. I mean, that's really important part of this, because the naysayers and the haters always want to try to downplay everything that's actually going on. So I mean, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Would you guys like some tea?
I would love some tea.
Yes, please.
Since
awesome.
I don't have my other drink with me at the moment.
So this is Shri, the co-creator of the Cosmic Embassy. Why don't you tell us what kind of tea we're drinking?
We're drinking fresh ECETI. It is all herbs collected
She's on her
here.
tippy toes.
It's all herbs collected here on the land: echinacea, lemon balm, and peppermint, and it's delicious.
Awesome.
It is delicious.
That's the ECETI.
They made me eat one of those echinacea flowers, because the echinacea grows on the grounds here.
Yeah.
And I ate one, and my entire mouth went numb.
Yeah, it's like a buzzing feeling. Have you tried that yet?
Burned.
I actually haven't tried it. Yeah, I mean, I tried the tea earlier, but I haven't tried the echinacea actual.
You gotta
leaf.
try
It
it.
was a great experience.
Where is
It really is.
I don't even. Yeah,
It's all over. There's some actually growing right here. So when we set up the spot,
behind
Yeah,
you.
we ate it all, actually. That's the problem.
when we set up the spot, there was literally like 40 or 50 like medicinal herbs like right here. And so we gathered those and we started making tea from them, because that's just what made the most sense instead of smashing them. But yeah, echinacea, it's super, super powerful detox antioxidant, you know what I'm saying? But really, it's antimicrobial. It's really good for your immune system. But the important part is it makes your mouth all buzzy.
Ooh,
Yeah, Ben, you know what it tasted like? Was like a Sichuan peppercorn. You know those peppercorns that they use to spice everything up?
numbing peppercorns that you eat at the Chinese restaurants.
Yep.
If you eat too many of them, you can't talk very well.
Yeah, dentists in China used to use that to numb people's mouths.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The traditional form of dentistry.
So what I really want to talk to you guys about is
how cold this tea is.
Wait, what is?
That is the coldest tea I've ever drank in my life.
coldest tea. What are you talking about? Wait,
burns.
wait, what is this?
So this is an
Dude, that
echinacea
is
flower.
It's a flower.
No, I mean,
Dude, they got you the biggest echinacea I've ever seen in my life.
What do you do? You just eat the whole?
Yeah.
Eat the flower,
Just
dude.
go
I mean,
for it.
I've only seen it like in like tea and like the leaves.
Watch.
You actually eat the flower?
Yeah.
It's edible.
Dude, eat it.
But you got to keep chewing it up for a
Just
minute.
take a big bite.
You got to keep chewing it. It's like a little pokey at first, but
Oh, what the heck?
Just
you'll
eat
get
it.
over it. You'll get over
Stabs
it.
your mouth. It feels like I'm eating like a. Oh, it has a good flavor at least, but feels like I'm eating cactus.
Yeah, kinda.
You kind of are eating cactus, but it's really good for you. All right, but the key is you got to let it. You want some?
No, I got a whole flower here in
Great.
case I want to take a bite.
The key is to like chew it up for a minute, and then you'll start to feel like the alkaloids mix with your tongue, and it's interesting because it's numbing, but it's really not. It's like more like a buzzing, like it's numbing by the nature of the buzz.
It's spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Has a nice spice. So we got some amazing smells going through here, thanks to our friend. Who was that?
I'm not sure.
Alexis had some Tibetan incense, which was amazing, and we had some sage. Some sage is burning. It smells like right now.
It smells so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had some difficulty getting to this point. the T tent flew away yesterday.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was tragic.
Like literally, we go and jump off the bridge. We come back. The entire T tent was flipped over and
You know,
like 10
maybe
feet
that
away.
was a sign that you guys shouldn't be jumping off bridges. I mean, did you think that? I mean,
I did it again today. Guess I didn't learn. But then
for those of you at home, he wasn't trying to kill himself
Wow,
by
okay.
jumping off a bridge. Yeah, Ben, it's hitting.
Yeah, my mouth is totally numb.
Ben's
My
gonna be
tongue is
like, let me answer this question.
So wait, wasn't the water like 30 degrees?
I think it's like a balmy like 48.
Oh,
Balmy. There's
Wow.
nothing about 48 degrees that's balmy.
Well, you jump in, you're cold, and then you jump in, and then you get out, and you're like, oh, it's so warm out.
No, that's okay. True, I guess.
Everything's relative. So all right, so I've been wanting to ask you guys this question for a while. How do you feel about the Fractal Universe? Have you looked into that? Like
what?
Nassim Haramein? Do you know Nassim Haramein?
I've heard of him and kind of looked into it a little bit, but why don't
Basically, this dude is like, he's like, in my opinion, he's beyond Einstein, and he's alive right now. He created a equation that literally applies to every single level of the entire universe. Like literally at the subatomic level, this equation applies, and at the macro supercluster like universal level, this equation applies, and so it's relevant to everything, which proves the fractal universe. And it also just proves how simple in a way everything is. Like if you want to understand the universe, you don't need to like go through some complicated class or this or that or get some guru. Like you can look at your own body, you know, and you can look at nature and you can look at the things around you, because if the universe is a fractal, and it is, then the information for everything is all around us.
Well,
now.
you know, I mean, if you look at the Taoists, the way the Taoists really look at the human body and really look at the molecules, you know, because you know, again, if you take a molecule, blow it up to like a solar system, for example, you know, and look at it from that perspective, realistically, it's just like molecules are like micro solar systems, right?
Like the nucleus is the sun.
Right, exactly. And if you really look at that in our bodies, like think about how many molecules that we really have in our bodies, you know?
And then you start to think, oh, actually, I am a universe.
And
I wonder how all the tiny people are doing down there.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to add on anything?
No, I mean, you pretty much covered it. I mean, in all of Eastern thought, they've been talking about how the human body is a universe for thousands of years. I mean, and they've referenced things very interestingly, like Buddha said that there were as many Tathagatas as there were grains of sand in the Ganges River, right? You think about like all of the beings in the universe, right? So let's say they're, you know, each molecule in your universe or in your body is, you know, is a solar system or something like that. Like your body is extremely complicated, and then you have that idea interacting, like your entire body filled with these, that's interacting with all of these other spaces and people that are also interacting in the same world, right? So if all of your molecules are that complicated and it's that deep, taking care of yourself is actually really important.
Really important.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not just about health. It's not actually, I think the mental health part of this, the letting go and the meditation and all of those things. I mean, there's a reason why monks were doing this for thousands of years, why they would leave society and kind of, you know, fill themselves with these kinds of, or around, put themselves around all of the, you know, that kind of cultivation, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if your body is the universe, like how you sitting down and meditating for a moment and focusing on love, like what does that do?
Yeah, really think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that is, you know, that's it right there.
Well, and
you know?
and you know, one of the stories that we were telling in our presentation, Ben, was about this monk that went to the paradise of ultimate bliss, and he stayed there for a couple of hours and begged the Buddha to stay. And when he came back, 6 years had passed, right? So what's interesting about that is if you're in meditation for something like 5 minutes, just thinking about love, in another dimension, that 5 minutes could be like
Lifetime.
1,000
Yeah.
years.
Million years, right?
But on the other flip side of that, if you think of the negative aspect and you're thinking of the selfish aspect, you know, then again, it's like years could go by and you're focusing on the negative aspect.
Totally.
You know? So it's like it's so important to really focus on the positivity and focus on the compassionate thing, you know. And it's not to say if someone's like, you know, it's like if someone is doing harm and really truly harming this world, it's not like, oh, we should have compassion, but it's about calling those people out. Like, you're doing something wrong and I'm doing something right by showing that this is harming others. So we need to stop what you're doing because it's affecting everybody. So it's not just like, oh, you know, we should have compassion and leave them alone. Because I heard someone kind of talk about, I think, referring to like, oh, we just can't have compassion for everybody. And I think there's a balance where it's like, you know, if it's individual one-on-one type of things, right? Then it's like, okay, you know, it's different because it affects only me. I'm really, truly like, it's my opportunity to really
what
look
I'm
within.
getting from that, and I think a lot of people will really resonate with this, which is, like, sure, like everyone should be able to create whatever they want, and we're not gonna like go jump in someone's free will and tell them like, no, like don't do that, that's bad. Or, well, we might end up doing that, but overall though, I really liked, I always bring it back to music because I'm a musician. So you guys have heard me sing.
We played guitar together.
Yeah,
I was playing, you were singing. It was the lyrics you were coming up with was really good. I was really impressed.
Yeah,
with that.
more to come. Cosmic Embassy music, but think about
Cosmic
this.
Embassy music.
But think about
coming to a tea house near you.
literally. By the way, my mouth is like completely
Dude,
numb.
my mouth is like, I'm like, I'm trying to talk, and my tongue is all
I
tingling.
was so appreciating Rob like talking and like waving around the echinacea wand. Oh, but hold on. All right, so let me finish this thought. So if someone's emitting the really chaotic negative vibrations like you're saying, like, and we're holding space for them to do that, well, from as a musical standpoint, I'm thinking like we're all a symphony, and if there's some instrument that's like crazy out of tune, am I just going to hold space for them to be out of tune while they ruin the whole symphony?
Man, that you just hit it
The
right on the head,
compassionate
man.
thing to
That's
do.
a great
yeah.
analogy.
And the compassionate thing to do is to not allow that, right? So
Totally.
I don't think,
Compassionate for the audience, for my ears.
well, no, I mean, that's the thing, though, is a lot of people mistake that, you know, like sometimes, I mean, you can overdo, like if you overdo something, it's not, it can destroy itself, right? So you really need to, like when it comes to people who are doing criminal acts or criminal activity to the extent of what we're aware of in society right now, you know, the important thing to do is to expose it, is to step in, and then to allow for that change to happen. And that's compassionate action, I think.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other big part of this, and I'm so happy I'm having this conversation with you guys. So the fractal universe, right? So if we kind of accept that the universe is a fractal, then in my mind, like when people ask me about extraterrestrials, I just say this: the universe is infinite and it's a fractal, right? If you, at the very least, if you look at every single shape and archetype and form of all these different animals and plants and insects and cephalopods, if you look at all of those archetypes on our planet, there must be, at the very least, an infinite extension of each of those patterns out into the universe.
Yeah, you're touching on something actually really
Important.
deep.
And deep.
Yeah,
And
because
that makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, and I think fractal is one way to look at it, but multidimensional is another as well, right? Because if you're thinking about like multiple different monks throughout history have had visions of other dimensions and what happens in those other dimensions as levels get higher and higher, as your consciousness raises over and over again. You know, Buddha was aware of multiple layers of the universe, and you can see that represented in Buddhist art, layers of the universe. And, you know, I think that not only are you looking at fractals within this one dimension, but also across multiple dimensions where these things are connected, and it's way more complicated than I think people think.
Well,
But it's simple also.
It is,
yeah.
But that's like the
That's the
compassion of the
paradox.
universe.
Well,
it is,
yeah.
it really is.
Well, yeah, like in going back with the grain of sand kind of thing you were talking about, you know. So another thing that it was in Buddhist is like it's like there's 3,000 worlds in a grain of sand. But then when you start thinking about it, it's just like how many grains of sands are in those 3,000 worlds, and then you just go down and you're just like, whoa, you know,
Infinity.
because and then you think of that, you know, from expanding the other way. And so I think what we're talking about is just that, you know, we think we're kind of limiting ourselves when you just say universe, because it's like, yeah, how many dimensional layers are there? How many, you know?
There's infinite universes. You know what
there
I
are.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's like it's almost, if you think about it, we're looking at, when we talk about extraterrestrial beings, we're literally talking about like 0.000000001% of beings potentially in the entire universe.
Because
right?
those are just ones that come here or we might be aware of.
Right. So we're still
Maybe.
looking lateral, right? But when you start thinking about extra dimensional beings, we're talking about the multiverse, right? And beings across that, and the entire plethora of beings that might exist of different colors and species and forms.
I mean, some of them might just exist as like particles, and you know, as like Corey talks about these spheres that are actually living entities. You
Totally.
know? So it's like we can't limit ourselves of just. I mean, even this crystal, like, you know, so many, like I'm holding this crystal, and there's so many people that literally can feel life within a crystal. You know, so. It's just like we don't necessarily need to limit ourselves to just like carbon based, you know?
Oh my God, yes. All right, so you just led me in to exactly what I wanted to say. So like the multi-dimensional aspect is like a whole other thing. Like that's when you're saying like, oh, there's a rainbow, but then there's a double rainbow, and then there's all these rainbows above that we can't even see, you know, because it's octaves. But what you brought up, which is something that I thought about, was not only is there life in all the different dimensions that maybe we can't perceive, but in our physical 3-dimensional realm, I got this download that there was life in every single element. You know, there's not just carbon-based or silicon-based life forms. Like there is like, you know, gold-based life forms, or like nickel-based life forms, or like hydrogen-based life forms, or like if the universe is infinite, then all of them, right?
It's limitless. And you know, you're hitting on something that's like so deep, and I think that a lot of people, it's hard for them to understand, because I mean, also when you start thinking, you know, we're just thinking of just one dimension, right? So you're going multiple dimensions. Like who knows what this crystal actually represents in other dimensions? Like maybe this crystal is a universe in another dimension, and it's like, you know, all the different molecules that we're seeing inside, and the crystalline and everything else, maybe that is a real universe that we're really looking at. So it's like, again, what you're just, you know, you just opened up a huge doorway.
Also, you know,
so many possibilities.
I think another thing that's really interesting is when you start bringing in the idea of reincarnation into all of this, because
reincarnation.
if you look at what some of the ancients said, is that you can reincarnate into a tree, you can reincarnate into a rock, and sometimes that was even punishment for beings that had done bad things, because they would have to stay there for thousands of years.
You did bad. 10,000 years are going to be a rock. Can't do anything.
No, and they would have to be like weathered away before they could reincarnate again.
Whoa.
I mean, this was an actual concern.
Death by erosion.
Really? No, I mean, imagine the pain of like sitting.
You're doomed to death by
you know
erosion.
what the worst is? The worst would be a toilet seat. Can you imagine reincarnating into a toilet seat?
No, but this is really important, because actually we often talk about life as being like this organic matter, but monks in temples would drop a vase and cry because they killed something.
Whoa.
And they could see those things in other dimensions. So it's like like the way that we look at life and the way that life actually manifests, I think, are actually two different things. And it gets really crazy when you start thinking about it. Like that crystal is actually alive. Like these things are alive. And, you know, you know, maybe we should start talking to our cars.
Actually, I love you so much. You're such a good crystal.
Somebody actually had, I think it was Jennifer. I saw her earlier. She actually has an audio thing where her car was talking to her as she was driving. So it's kind of interesting.
See what I mean?
Wait, you mean like
Evidence.
you mean like for real?
Yeah, like for real. Like she was.
But wait. Anyway. But to be serious, actually, there's all this research out there of people, you know, talking like really kind words to plants, and the plants plants growing really well. And when you're saying bad words to plants, the plants are dying. You know, like
Totally.
Emoto, Dr. Emoto did all of that work on freezing water and then looking at the crystals. And when you were saying nice things to the water, what would happen to the crystals and the beautiful formations?
Totally.
And
Yeah.
what would happen to them when you did? So like life is everywhere, and it is also like bound by how it's treated and how we treat things, you know?
It's connected all the vibrations around. And I want to say, because you just said that, there is that study that came from the guy who invented the lie detector test, where he started hooking up those same electrodes to plants.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And then they would get these crazy reactions from
Yeah.
like even just a lighter in the room. And specifically, if he thought at the plant, I'm going to burn you, the plant was like,
React.
That's exactly it,
So
man.
the plant is actually right.
don't do it.
Totally
The
true.
plant actually made that noise.
Yeah. Just like that. Oh, but that's funny. But
I think you just peaked the level.
Yeah.
there.
clipping.
Good.
No, it's okay. It's not a good podcast unless Rob clips.
Yeah. I'm gonna clip in this entire podcast.
Oh, the last thing I want to say about that was the extension of that experiment was some guys from Damanhur, which is this crazy community in Italy, like in a mountain. They started taking the same like lie detector electrodes and hooking them to plants, but then connecting that to a synthesizer, and the plants would make music
That's incredible.
Well, you know, one of our favorite
just naturally.
Yeah, I mean, one of our favorite episodes that I think we did was one about water memory, actually. And like he was using Dr. Emoto's as an example, but really these scientists got together, and one of them was a Nobel Prize winner scientist who, once he started experimenting with this, his whole community pushed him out. And this dude's a Nobel Prize winner. He's the guy who discovered the HIV virus, actually. And he started experimenting with this water and noticing that water retains memory, that it was literally able to, just through they did a test where they had water and they added like, basically they put like a drop of like some kind of virus in it, but it was like 20 to the billionth drop, right? I mean, this would be literally like putting a single tiny teardrop in the ocean and then going to India and then taking a sample of it, right? Like that's how extreme this was. But what he found was that the water, when he did that sample, it was able to recreate that virus. So he realized that something about water can retain this memory. And so their point was that we don't need all these hard drugs. In fact, all we really need is just a tiny little bit of it, even in frequency, even in sound frequency. Because they
Just need the key.
Exactly. And then just having a tiny bit diluted, which is what holistic medicine is. So they were saying that we just need a little bit of this, but we're being bombarded with so much of this crap.
Right.
So I don't know if you want to take it from there, Rob, but we're going on.
I'm good.
Okay.
So just to backpedal a little bit back to like, you know, the universe has all these different forms and shapes. And as we as a collective are starting to really grapple this, the only way we really can is just understanding that there's so much, there's no way we could possibly classify and understand it all, A. But B, we can begin to understand this by understanding the patterns in which everything forms. So I would say, you know, back to the previous conversation, like every single archetype of every animal and plant and insect has an infinite extension out of space. And that's just something that's a logical conclusion for me. Like I believe the universe is a fractal, and therefore every single one of these plants and animals, insects has an infinite extension, meaning infinitely advanced version of all these exist. There's super advanced space pandas. There's super advanced space giraffes, space lizards, space mantis, super advanced space cat, space dog, super advanced space squid, super advanced space ants. You know what I mean? Like everything, space spiders, like love it or hate it, there's super advanced space piranhas. You know what I mean?
Look, you lost me on the pandas, okay? I'm just saying.
No, I think the important thing of what you're saying is how we're all connected.
Yeah.
You know, we're all made of the same molecules, the same structure, everything. You know, we all exist in this universe, and we are all connected. And even in other dimensions, you know, we we exist in other dimensions and we're connected to that. And there's a lot of people that even have experiences
Totally.
with that.
Totally.
And so, it's like we know that's true and we know that's there. And, once you align yourself up with that, that's when a lot more things become a lot open for you.
Yeah. And we were talking about earlier, like, every element is contained in our bodies, right?
Right.
Like hypothetically, right? Every single element is in our body. And that would even include elements that we don't know about yet.
Exactly.
Well, that's actually super important. So then now you're starting to talk about the sciences that we're aware of. And what's really unfortunate right now is that science should, and I don't think this is just my opinion, I really objectively think science should be more spiritual. I think
They
scientists,
have to be.
yeah, scientists would
At
get
a certain
much
point.
more out of what they were doing if the cabal, as it were, weren't trying to use science to control all of us. Because what ends up happening is, you can take any kind of data and tell a story around that data that makes you think something is one way. But then if you look at this other wide variety of data, you're finding a completely different story. But what they're doing and what happens to a lot of these scientists is some bigwig in the science community will take that and create this story out of a limited amount of data. And then all of a sudden it's only this way. And anyone going against that idea, that theory, is criticized and thrown out of the scientific community.
Totally.
And can't even do their work.
Totally.
That's
Right.
exactly what we don't need. We need more open-minded people.
Totally.
Right?
And then what happens is they form these like barriers contained within a box, and anything that becomes
Problematica.
problematic, yeah,
That's actually a thing.
yeah,
if
it
you
is.
guys didn't
It
know.
is. But what happens is like they form these anything that's intangible, it's not science anymore. Therefore, it's like, oh well, this doesn't exist
Yep.
then because it's intangible. We only talk about the tangible.
It's called
stuff.
materialistic reductionist science.
Right.
It's like a disease.
It is because
It's like that
It's
tip of the
actually-
iceberg, that's all there is. And we're not even going to look under the water.
What would
Yeah.
really upset most hardcore scientists, what upsets them the most is when you tell them, because they are, that they're a part of a religion.
Yep.
Because the way in which they operate and how they stand
Scientology.
up to kind of argue and all of that stuff comes from, it's literally the same thing as when you look at different folks and religions that are trying to protect those
Totally.
religions.
well, and it's a cult. It
It
really
is.
is.
They're
when you
saying
think
this
about it.
this must be right.
Yeah, Darwin is their
goes
god.
that goes in the face of what science was supposed to be, which was all about objectively looking and saying like, all right, is there any evidence for this?
Well, and if you don't think that science is a psychological operation, you really need to read more up on how Darwin's theory became prominent in society. Like it would blow people's minds to find out and to know that the only reason that Darwin's theory even
I
is
saw you guys doing that in your communism
and
episode.
we have loads of all of this evidence.
Yeah.
There.
If anybody who's watching this has not seen their communist episodes on Edge of Wonder, by the way, subscribe to Edge of Wonder if you haven't already. If you haven't seen their communist episodes, it's really, really important. And as we go forward, there's going to be more and more discussion of like what is individualism and what is collectivism. And I'm not even saying like good or bad, because I think there's good ways to do collectivism. But in our current state with so much corruption and distortion, it's like, I don't even know if like a true like collectivist society is possible in the current. And I think like actually and that's why we tend to have more freedom in the more individual society, because then it's like the competition kind of just governs itself. And that was the idea with the free market, whether or not you believe it works or not, it's working more than communism. I mean, look at Mao, you know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Well, and also, one thing I want to go back on is like there are probably some scientists listening to this and saying, could be really offended by this.
Sure.
And I think the point is that we can't limit ourselves just to science. You know, all the great thinkers, including Einstein, all of them, they're not just using one tool. It's not like only science. It's like what Rob said, we need to add all aspects. Like this is what the ancient Chinese did. They looked at the human body, life in the universe. That was their science.
Totally.
So they didn't already have these notions coming into it. It's like, hey, we don't understand this. Let's look at it from all possible angles. Like let's look at it from the human perspective. Let's look at it from like a universal perspective, and then from go even beyond that.
Well, not only that, but tons of their healing actually came from getting what we probably now call downloads, where they would actually see something in someone's body and know where an ailment was, and then figure out how to heal that part of their body. I mean, there's multiple stories and figures throughout history
that biofeedback
that were actually able to see these things and do that. They were actually operating on a much more spiritual level, but then adding the science in to create like healing or whatever it is, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And that makes me think, this is like a little bit off topic, but I think you'll have something to add to this. You guys probably both will, which is, it made me think of those, have you guys heard of those hospitals in China where they just like put someone on a bed and like 4 practitioners like go over them and hold their hands over them and just say, this person is healed. They say their name and they say, you know, if they're saying Joseph, they say Joseph is healed, Joseph is healed, Joseph is healed, Joseph is healed, Joseph is
I'm
healed.
freaked out.
And they'll but they, and over again documented, they'll watch like tumors like disappear in like 30 minutes. I'm not even exaggerating. Go look it up. And that stuff's really, really incredible.
Interesting.
I don't know if that ties into.
Well, I think the way to look at this is like it's very complicated. The human body is very complicated. What happens in a person's life is very complicated. It's not, you know, for what works for one person may not work for another person, and then you're adding in the different illnesses that people are getting from us being in this messed up world, from chemicals, from radiation, from all of this stuff. It's a very complicated situation.
Totally.
I think a person themselves, you know, we were just talking about water memory, all of those kinds of things. Like a person has the ability absolutely to heal themselves through like mind cultivation, through elevating their consciousness.
Totally.
That their body actually follows.
And you could say that's the only way you heal.
I mean, actually, you really could.
It's true.
You really could. It's just when you
all you need.
Yeah, like not everyone can accept that. But the idea is that, you know, it's not the health in your body actually really comes from that thing. Like if you think about what you actually own in your body, right? Or what you own in your life. Like you don't own any material things. They can be taken from you at any time. You know, even your body can be taken from you, but your mind is the only thing that you actually have the power to control. So sometimes when people are going through like depression or when they've done something wrong and they're being hard on themselves, I always find it so curious because it's literally like it's you attacking yourself.
Totally.
Right? Like
it is.
Why would you ever attack the only thing that you actually own in this world?
Because you don't know.
No, but it's like we should have compassion for ourselves so that we can elevate. Like it's the things we do wrong that sometimes are the best because they actually help us realize how much of a knucklehead we are so we can do something about it, right?
And I'm realizing like health is also part of that self-mastery. And when we realize that like all health or disease comes from like chaotic vibration in your mind, body, spirit, right? And then you realize, well, like, whoa, so if I'm really on the path of self-mastery, which includes self-love, then I'm actually going to be moving towards health naturally. And Ben and I were talking about this last night under the stars. We were getting shots of the Milky Way and just talking about everything with a bunch of amazing people.
You guys are taking shots of the Milky Way. I don't know what you guys were doing, but I want some of that tonight.
There's be plenty of Milky Way out there
Ben's
tonight.
He's gonna come back into the suite and be like, "You're not gonna believe what I saw." It was amazing.
We went into the mountain, bro. We went in this time. But yeah, so he was talking about self-mastery. and how it was like really, was it for Tao or Falun Gong or?
Yeah. I mean, it's part of like with Falun Gong teaches like what I personally practice. I mean, the whole thing is about really being able to really truly look inside and overcome our attachments, you know, and one of the things that it teaches in this practice is that, you know, it's something that we have a hard time to. Every time we try to meditate, it seems like our all these thoughts come in, right? Like all these things from everything else. And really, from my understanding, it's showing a lot of what we're attached to. So the more that we can, and it's not just letting go of, it's not like not having money. That's not really it, but it's letting go of this attachment to these things.
Right.
So we become more free of this world while still living inside of this world.
Totally.
And then we become more control. Like Rob said, you know, our mind is really the only thing we can control.
Totally.
So it's up to us. Do I want to feel anger? Do I want to feel jealousy? Or am I going to like push these negative things away and recenter on myself?
Totally.
You know? It's hard to do.
Yeah. And one of the biggest releases I mean, I've had in my life is, you know, when something does go wrong or when people are doing wrong things to me, and to have that release where I just feel so much love for that person, where I almost feel like I can give them that thing that they're trying to take. Like, go ahead and take it. And like to feel that selflessness is like the highest, just most loving thing. Like when you get on that,
That's like compassion.
it's amazing. It's like,
well, it's turn the other cheek aspect from,
Yeah.
from what Jesus and Buddha are both teaching.
but it will literally, it almost feels like that love is like the only thing that I want. That it's like, that's why I came here, is to cultivate that, you know what I mean? And I think if more people could connect with that part of themselves and really do that and exercise that, the kind of love that comes from that, exercising that selfless bone in their body, would just like, I think it would blow so many people's minds. No one's doing that anymore, you know?
Well,
I mean,
more and more,
you know
more
what I
and
mean,
more and
though?
more
It's
and
like,
more. Yeah.
I'm talking about
the general mainstream
Yeah, sure,
aspect,
exactly,
not
sure.
our community
Yeah,
here.
sure.
You know, we're
Totally.
all pretty much aware of what's happening.
Totally.
You know, but it's the mainstream that we're really trying to reach out there.
Totally.
So.
And it's happening fast. And the cool thing about that, and I'm glad we're kind of like leveling off on that subject, which is it's exponential, you guys. And like, you guys know,
it's a fractal universe.
well, you know the bell curve.
No.
The bell curve is it
don't.
takes a really long time.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? If there's a graph and this is time and this is expansion or advancement, it takes a really, really, really long time for us to get like this expanded. But then it becomes more and more and more and more and more exponential. And at a certain point, it just goes boop,
Yep.
like straight up.
Unless you're on YouTube, in case it'll go like this, and then it'll just go like that. Because they're gonna censor you. I mean, we can't talk about this stuff on YouTube.
Better not say the fractal word.
Selflessness, that's a conspiracy theory. What else are they gonna call a conspiracy theory? Seriously.
I still think we should do a whole episode on satire and just do opposite of everything that we
For sure.
Just for you to like hear and just like it'd be funny.
See if it goes viral.
Yeah.
Full satire of everything you've already done. Well, we won't even talk about the
Right.
the blue chickens. but there is some exciting opportunities, you know, when people start criticizing in a certain direction, you know what I mean? It leaves, especially when they're doing it from a standpoint of not truth, then that leaves these giant opportunities for us and whoever to kind of fill in that contrast that's created. And contrast is good, you know what I mean? Like you're saying, like, yeah, you're being censored by YouTube, but now you're thinking in all these different ways, and you're thinking like, how can I become more redundant? Like Edge of Wonder TV. You know, how can I become more redundant? How can I get the message out better? And how can I be less reliant on these like centralized platforms? And we see all these different platforms coming out. They're saying, you know, uncensorable, uncorruptible, you know what I mean? And who knows, you know, what's going to be good and what's...
I don't think it's even necessary to say all of that, because it's just like, the thing is like Ben and I would, what we've seen and how we've been treated by YouTube or any platform we've been on, is we just can't trust them. So it's like, we'll create our own platform and then invite people on eventually, hopefully, right? And then hopefully it continues to be a trustworthy platform. The thing is like the bigger you get, the more eyes that are on it, the more criticism that you get and all that stuff. But I think we're happy to throw ourselves in the way of the bullet on that and see if we can get some movement and get a proper platform going where people can share this type of content on it and not maybe and hopefully get paid for it. I mean, I think people in our community, people everywhere are very afraid of money. Like if you're making money, it's evil. It's like, yeah, but everybody, you know, it's like there has to be some kind of trade system, right? So that you can exist, that you can live life. And money isn't what's evil. It's the human desires that cause the evil. It's the human ego and the things that come along with it. Like money is just that's
the medium.
It's a tool. Yeah.
And abundance is natural.
Yeah. But the problem is that it's what's funding what's going on with the situation with the cabal and how they're controlling all this aspect, right? But if we didn't have that, then we probably wouldn't even be using money. We would be using a whole different system, or gold or whatever it is,
or tea,
yeah. Or echinacea plants.
This is our biggest commodity here,
right there.
Well, cheers.
Awkward silence.
No, that was great. Sometimes you need an in-between beat.
We're just like talking about some really heavy stuff. We need to pause to have people like, whoa.
Just like in music. But it's really, 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 really good overall. And it's because we have to have that contrast and we're all growing and learning. And here's what I want to say about this. People who are doing this kind of stuff already kind of know what you said. I already know that, you know what I mean? There's going to be some people that don't like it. That's fine. And we don't do this to just be loved everywhere. But here's what I know. I know that some of this information that I've got my finger on the pulse of is real.
For real.
I know it's the truth. And I'm not going to turn away. I'm not going to shy away. I'm not going to turn away in any way, shape, or form because there's some pressuring force saying, I don't know if you really want to speak that truth. And furthermore, I really do see a society, maybe not long from now, where things have completely changed and there's a renaissance, and those who have been making this content when it was taboo, it's like totally like part of the history books of everything. When I started hearing David Wilcock and Corey and all these different people and just putting the whole picture together for myself with my own experiences, there's a certain point where it becomes so real for us.
Yeah, Ben and I were actually talking about this maybe a couple of months ago. We were looking at all of our videos and how frickin' insane they all are. And what's funny about it is, actually, if something massive changes in society and a lot of this stuff gets disclosure, what do you think people are going to do when they realize Edge of Wonder and some of these other channels were the only ones talking about this kind of content? They're going to be like, who the are you guys?
Yeah,
totally. Really, and I don't just mean us. It's like there's a bunch of us.
It's everybody in this community.
Totally.
Because who cares what CNN is? Even the news, they're going to be it's like far behind, right? And then
far behind.
People are going to want to know more of, like, even with the UFOs stuff that's coming out. Granted, even though they're trying to control it on the other side, but we can use this to our advantage. We can use this by saying now we can start reaching out to those mainstream people over there are now starting to have these thoughts. Even my own father, starting to think about these things that he didn't really quite think about before.
Right.
So, and then the more people like us come out, the more that they're going to have no choice but to start looking into what we're saying
and digesting it.
Yeah. And I think one of the really, really incredible things that James Gillen said to us was just how much he appreciated the younger generation coming out. He's like, I feel like I can retire now, It's like you guys
give us the ranch.
Yeah, take
not gonna lie, it crossed my mind.
But yeah, you know, so I
so
think
great.
I think and there's so many people coming out all the time talking about these things that we're covering, that we're talking about, you know, and for the people who are just getting started, I would just say, you know, keep going, don't give up, you know, it's things are going to get better, things are going to build up, just keep at it, you know.
But
be
do your
hopeful.
research. Do your research. I think it's really important. You know, with Edge of Wonder, one of the things that Ben and I have come across over and over again is, well, for one, how abysmal investigative journalism is out there in the real world.
Totally.
They have no clue how to actually. I actually didn't believe it for a while. I thought there was something wrong with me. Like, how am I finding this stuff? And all of these people out there couldn't find it when this is their job. That's like what they do. And of course, like, there are agendas in a bunch of these medias. Don't get me wrong, right? But it's very important for you to take everything that anyone says with a grain of salt and do your own research and come to those conclusions. And this is what we tell everyone on the show all the time. Yeah. We don't want you to follow us. We want you to follow yourself. Mm-hmm. But, you know, here's what we found. And if it helps you, do your own research and let's see what we can come up with together. Exactly. Right?
Totally. Because, you know, when people do their own research and really discover things for themselves, that's when this whole
becomes personal.
Life changes.
Mm-hmm. It becomes personal.
Exactly.
You know?
And I mean, there's so many things out there that aren't believable. They're, you know, we have to look into these things and with an open mind. And, you know, I think I can't remember who it was, but they were describing the difference between a naysayer and a skeptic. And a skeptic is someone who's going to look at everything and then come up with a conclusion. But a naysayer is someone who already has an opinion. And then no matter what you do, they're just trying to find things that conclude what they've already decided. Mm-hmm. That's what you like. And that's how most of the journalists are out there already.
Totally.
So it was Peter.
Oh, it was Peter.
Yeah, it was Peter.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Peter Maxwell Slattery, who has got the most awesome UFO footage I've ever seen.
That guy's awesome. Check him out too for whoever's listening.
He's rad.
PeterMaxwellSlattery.com, I think.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's right.
You can type in his name.
Yeah. So I think we're about to close. This feels really good. But I want to end on a high note.
Sure.
And first I'm
You're gonna start singing really high pitch.
I could, but then we'd be
falsetto.
That's for the next podcast.
That was terrible.
Wait until you
please don't ever do that again.
Wait until it's funny because I'm actually really good, but that's another story. Yeah, so let's end on a really high note. I want to first kind of do a forward projection, and then I want to bring it back to here and now in the land and loving James. So first off, so glad you all are here. I'm so glad this gathering happened. For you guys, what are you guys most excited about for this year? For, you know,
I'm actually most excited about James's fart machine. I don't know if you guys have heard it. That was awesome. Just him going around setting people up. And like, you know, we were trying to do a show earlier, it was a really heartfelt conversation we were trying to have, and James sets us up with a fart machine. And Ben actually thought,
well, the first time I was like, what the heck was that?
No. The best thing is, like, I've been watching James do this all day. He told me about it way earlier. And so when it went off, I just closed my eyes and I was like, and then I happened to look over at Ben, and he looks at the woman where and I see this expression, like his eyes open, and he's like, did she just and then right after that moment we hear again, and then I was
that was really accurate.
That was really accurate. Like, oh, the fart machine that James was talking to us about. That was so funny. But no, okay, let's
Ben totally lost it. Okay, actually, back to your question.
What are you most excited about? Besides the fart machine.
As exciting as the fart machine is, Ben, why don't you tell them what you're most excited about?
Well, I think for this year, well, actually, we got interviewed for the new Above Majestic 2 movie.
Nice.
So we're actually
called The
going to
Cosmic
be
Secret.
The Cosmic Secret.
Cosmic Secret.
So we're actually going to be in the new documentary,
Making
which should
asses
be
out
out in
of
fall.
ourselves.
Which should be out in fall.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is right around the time we're going to be at Dimensions of Disclosure. The Cosmic Embassy will be there as well. We're going to do another one of these podcasts with everybody who's there. We'll be set up in a state park at the beach. It's going to sell out. If you're listening to this before the event happens, make sure to get your ticket right. Meow. And we are going to be out there, and these guys are going to be hosting it. It's going to be a great event. So grateful for everyone who's putting that
Yeah,
together.
there's so many people like David Robert Steele, and then you have Laura Eisenhower, Jordan Sather, Corey Good, David Wilcock, and the list just goes on.
Yeah, I'm super excited
But
for that
some
one.
people who are here actually are
Yeah.
going to be there too. So.
Totally.
Yeah, and I'm going to say that's actually what I'm most excited about right now is after this whole gathering at ESETI, just meeting up with all y'all at Dimensions of Disclosure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because this has been so fun.
yeah,
Totally.
We're hosting it, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're actually speaking and going to be hosting, so it's going to be.
I
Cool.
mean, really
Dope.
seldomly, like everybody in here is an adult, right? Yeah, you're all adults. Okay,
What
it's
kind of
like
question is that?
Well, no,
What
it's
do you
just
think, they're all kids?
no. The point is that only when you're actually kids do you actually form relationships like we're forming right now, right? And here we are, we're all at different points in our adult lives, and we're forming these relationships, and like it's actually amazing. Like it's making me feel like I felt when I was young, and
Oh, I
you know,
mean,
and I'm not young.
you know, and you know, probably like. Aside from your question, you said, but you know, the best thing, like we've been asking people what's their best experience so far, you know,
Totally.
and aside from like everything that I experienced out there, but it's just meeting all of you guys here, you know,
Really?
really
Totally.
connecting, because you know, it's like
Weaving.
this is really like like true family here.
Totally.
You
Yeah, and
know?
I don't think you guys realize how you guys are the future of the world.
Yeah.
Like really everyone who's here right now, like all the people that Ben and I have met at all of these conferences, it's like really hit me in like different meditations that you guys are the future. It's
Yeah.
amazing, actually. Like the open-minded future, like people of the future. Like it's so hard to come across people like you in our society right now that are not judgmental, that are looking for the truth, that are willing to talk about these things and not criticize other people, and are open to different outcomes. It's actually incredible. It's super incredible.
And we may not all have like the same understanding or necessarily agree with a similar thing, but it's like we can still all come together, and we understand that it's like none of us have all the answers, and we're all searching, and we each have our own experiences. But I mean, I think when I've seen it here, you know, you can just pretty much go up to anybody and start talking to them, and you just instantly feel connected to that
Totally.
person. And it's just, you know, and
It's like
knowing-
family. It's
it is,
bizarre.
it
And
is.
each one has their own piece of the puzzle, which is so special. Like we're not supposed to exactly agree because maybe this part fits to that person, but not to that person, but they're all connected in just this perfect kind of mosaic. And so it's so special that we're all unique and individual. We all have our own talents and skills and interests. And yet we have this baseline vibration of understanding some really basic truths, like the universe is full of life. Of course it is. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of stuff that brings us together. And as we weave, we become something greater, you know?
It's awesome.
All right, so let's end with sending love to James and ESETI and this land and all the
And
spirit.
James's fart machine.
James's fart machine.
I just want to give another shout out to that.
We'll get you one for Christmas, buddy.
It's too late. I've already got 6 apps on my
You're
phone.
gonna get like boxes of them now.
I'm
He's gonna
done.
put them all
Dude,
over.
I don't need
all over our
them.
plate.
I'm the one who told my father about those fart apps, and he sets me up in drugstores all the time. He'll put his phone somewhere, and then he'll walk away. It'll go off, and I'm standing there next to someone who thinks I farted. That's my father.
I see where it comes
Like,
down.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense,
Like,
dude.
that's why I kind of
perfect
feel like
sense.
James is like my father. The same exact
Wow.
age, the whole
But
thing.
no, you're right. On a serious note, yeah, like we send
Thank you, James.
Yeah.
Thank you, Iseti, all the crew here, everyone who volunteered,
all of you guys,
Yes.
who are
everyone who's
here,
present.
who
Thank
joined
you, thank
us.
you,
We love you
thank
guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
thank you. And thank you,
you.
spirits of the land, and all the beings who live in the mountain who are just getting flashed with a laser all the time.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, how annoying are we? I mean, actually, yesterday I was laying there. I think with Kim, like we were just laying out there, and like a ship would go by, and all of a sudden everyone would get so excited, and I was like, really imagine if you were a god right now looking down on us, how funny we would be. Like something zooms across the sky and we're like, whoa, a light. No, not to make fun of it, but it's actually like there's so
It's
many
true.
amazing things in the universe, right? So yeah.
that feels good. Let's get a group hug on camera. Take off the headphones.